Hello, and we're back with Michael Notar, and it is iPad day. Everybody's got their iPads today. And I hope you at home have yours out too. And so, how's things going? How's the move? How'd that go?
Actually, the move it's actually wonderful. That's why I'm a little congested now because of being in a building with all students. I got to get my body back up, my immune system built back up to being around the students. But the move's been great. It's wonderful being in the building with the students.
So you moved from the old southeast to
the middle school.
The middle school.
Yeah, and it's great. I mean, it's nice being in the hallways with the students, and you know, I have my own mentoring group. I have 16 sixth graders that I meet with every day, the last 30 minutes of the day. So it's nice seeing them in the morning when they first come in and they go to their first period class or during lunchtime. So it's just nice interacting with them, not only the students but also the staff and the administration. So we've been welcomed at the middle school, and it's been a great move.
It kind of reminds you what you do it all for.
Exactly.
Getting the kids there.
Yeah, it's nice, and it's, you know, and if you're having a rough day, your schedule's busy, it's nice. Like this morning, as soon as I'm done here, I'm going back and pulling my students out of study hall for about 10 or 15 minutes each and sitting down and working with them on their success plan. So that's nice to me. It allows me an opportunity to sit, and so if I'm having a busy or crazy day, it's nice to talk to the students, and they, you know, get you focused back into what you're there for.
So what's the success plan?
What we did this year with our mentorship program, we did implement a mentorship program for all students in grades 6 through 12. So all adults are matched up with students, ranging in numbers of students. For example, I have 16 sixth graders.
So do all the teachers have like 16
Correct.
students too?
Yeah, and again, it depends on the number of students per grade level and the number of teachers.
Is this all schools?
This is just middle school and high school.
Okay, that's
yep,
okay.
all students grades 6 through 12. So what I do is the last 30 minutes of the day, those 16 students come down to my class or my office, and I have large tables. We kind of sit around and we do different activities. Usually we do an activity on Mondays and Tuesdays together, kind of getting to know one another, some of our interests and things of that nature. On Wednesdays and Thursdays, I have activities for them to do in my office while I pull those students up one at a time, talk with them for about 5 or 10 minutes about how's school going, how are their grades. I take a look at their attendance. I take to see if they're having any issues with any other students or any teachers or so forth. If they are, then I email those teachers, and we make sure that they get back on track. On Fridays is kind of like our day that we kind of sit as a group and we talk about anything that is current right then and there. Just allow an opportunity to have an open dialogue as a group and kind of get to know one another. It's been going wonderful. The success plans, what they are is the Ohio Department of Education launched that all students that are at risk of possibly failing or falling behind, they have to have what's called a student success plan. And that success plan plans their future as far as what courses they plan to take, long and short-term goals, what they plan to do upon graduation of high school. What we elected to do is have a success plan for all students, just not at-risk students, because even your students that are on track still need someone that they can talk to kind of plan their future, what they would like to do. So my 16 sixth graders have developed a success plan which we're going over. It'll be sent home and the parents can read it and sign off on it. But it's kind of asking them about what their goals are. What do they want to do? What are their goals through middle school? What do they plan to do when they graduate from high school? We start talking about career options, about college options, educating them that not every child has to graduate and go to a four-year college.
They do have to graduate.
They do have to graduate. And that's the purpose of it. That's the first goal, to keep them on track to graduate. But educating them that there are trade schools. You know, there's a lot of trades that are out there that pay very good money, and some of our students aren't aware of that. So we sit down, like today, I'll meet with them, we'll talk about their goals, what they want to accomplish after high school, what are their plans. Of course, those plans are going to change as they get older, but being in sixth grade, they should start looking and mapping out their career and what they would like.
Do you tell them that some of their possible career things don't even exist right now? That I can't remember what the percentage, but I read somewhere that, I don't know, 70%, 20%, 40% of the jobs that are going to be out there in 6 or 7 years aren't even there yet.
Yeah, and we'll take a look at that. Based upon what once we're all done with it, we'll take a look at everyone's career, and we'll kind of pull it up on the computer, talk about it, the growth of that career, and but it's just neat having a dialogue, because we've had some dialogue about what's a 2-year education called at a college, what's a 4-year degree called, and some of them were aware of it, some of them weren't. We talked about doctorate degrees and different. But the kids that I've met with so far, I've met with about 4 or 5 of the 16. I'll meet with the rest today. A lot of their careers are on track. I met with a boy yesterday, and he wanted to focus on graphic design and computers and software and video games, and which that field is growing. And we talked about that. I had a couple that were interested in becoming a veterinarian. You always have those students that they want to be a professional athlete. And So, because we were all that way when we were younger. So we talked about that. I met with a boy yesterday, and we talked about the percentages. Not that that is not an achievable goal, but we talked about the percentages of people that go on to the next level and play.
Do you encourage the veterinarian people maybe to go volunteer at the Animal Protective League or that sort of thing?
Well, yeah, because one of the questions that they have to answer in the success plan are, what are some things that you can do outside of school that will draw interest into that? So we talked about that, and it gives me an opportunity where if I notice I have a handful of students that are interested in being a veterinarian, then I can contact a veterinarian to see if they would be willing to come in and speak with our students about it, just to give them a little bit of background information. But even those that put down a professional athlete, we talk about you have to have a backup plan, because even professional athletes, when you're 35, 36, you're old as far as becoming.
And the smart ones have other business.
Right. Yeah.
Like Jared Bunch, who's from Ashtabula County, and he's done acting, and there's others that have businesses that are quite successful at.
Yeah. So it's nice when you're a professional athlete and you have that money, but then you also have to be educated on what you do with that, whether it's business, whether it's having a degree and doing something else. And so we always have if they come in, they want to be a professional athlete, we have a backup plan. What's something else that because you still have to go to college if you want to be a professional athlete. So.
Unless you're LeBron James.
Right, exactly.
But there aren't that many of...
Far and few between, yeah.
This can't be off the point, but I watched a while ago, there was a documentary about him, and in high school, he went to the kind of elite Catholic high school, and they... when you're at Ohio State, you get on a plane and fly to different places to play football or basketball. They were doing that in high school. Yeah. So, that is just not the...
Yeah, I remember when he was in high school at Akron St. Vincent St. Mary, they came to the Youngstown area because they were supposed to play Springfield. Well, their high school gymnasium could not house the people that wanted to come watch them, so they actually had to move it to Youngstown State University for a high school basketball game, and it was sold out, so, yeah.
That's just a different world.
It is, yeah.
Do you have them think about other things, though, like maybe sports casting or...
Yeah, and and we talk about that, if we talk about options that they can look into. And obviously, this group I will be with through not only 6th grade, but 7th grade and 8th grade. So it's going to be neat to see how these success plans change, because we talk about your career plans are going to change.
Sure.
Some may not. My sister at a young age wanted to be a classroom teacher in 5th or 6th grade, and she's a teacher. She's been a teacher for almost 30 years. Even myself entering college, I wanted to go into medicine and be a doctor. But I took some courses and I realized it's really not for me. And then I got involved with my sister working with some students and adults, some special needs students and adults, and that really triggered my interest in going into education. So even at the college level, we have students that are making changes.
My wife took a year of accounting and decided to become a teacher.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. So it's, but the key is getting them to look at their future and just not waiting until they get to become a junior or senior in high school and deciding where their future may go. So start at an early age, so we're starting as young as 6th grade and looking at different careers. And and it helps because through ATEC we did the Career Awareness Day about a week ago, and I went and spoke. All our 7th graders across the county went out and looked at different businesses that are in Ashtabula County and got to meet some people and kind of trigger their interest on what they may want to do once they graduate from high school. So.
Yeah, there are jobs that go wanting here.
Yeah.
I think it's been a sign out, business across the street, machinist wanted. I think it's been there forever.
Yeah. It's, and it's very interesting, and I always tell this story. I've told it to 100 people, but I taught in another district where there was a high school student, coached him in sports, and great kid. Was an at-risk kid that really struggled through high school, and so a lot of people wrote him off that, you know, maybe their goal is to get him to graduate from high school. Well, he ended up going on to trade school, focusing on welding. He's now an underwater welder and makes more money than I'll ever make, which is great. Because
Yeah.
you know, but I share that story because you just never know. You know, every student's capable of doing whatever they want to do if it's something that they like, and he's a prime example that so the people that doubted him, that thought that he really wouldn't make it, he's making more money than those people will ever make.
Good for
salary
him.
wise. Yeah, so it's great. Those are great success stories.
So when you were talking about other things like the kids, their concerns and stuff, are some of these kids having trouble as far as school and?
You know, it's interesting because it's, you know, it's an opportunity. I also, you know, made a personal contact to all the parents to let them know that I was their son or daughter's mentor. And some of the parents at that time may share some things that I can kind of keep an eye on. But now that the students are starting to get to know me a little bit better, they feel comfortable coming in to let me know if they did poorly on a test or if they're struggling in a class. That way I can go ahead and talk to that classroom teacher. I can make a phone call home to see if something going on at home or are they just not understanding. But yeah, when I sit down, when it's one-on-one, they do feel comfortable. They will share if they're having a problem with a particular student. At that time, I'll talk to the principal, we'll look into it and we'll address it. They may be having a problem with a particular teacher, and I'll talk with that teacher. And it's happened a couple times already this year, and we've kind of worked through that, which is great. And
Are the teachers aware of the problem, or?
You know, it's kind of interesting. I had one at the start of the school year that I made the teacher aware of a situation, and it really helped that teacher understand why that student might have been a little withdrawn from class on that particular day. So it's helpful in both ways. It's not always an issue between a student and teacher. There just might be something going on outside of school that we need to be aware of that's going to cause some disruption for them during the school day.
Do you see like bullying? Is that have you seen that much?
No, not really. We've been in school about a month now, but sometimes I may have a student come up and share that they're having an issue with a particular student. Well, that's good because sometimes if they feel comfortable telling me, we can address it. And that's the purpose of the mentorship, is allowing our students an opportunity to feel comfortable with an adult in the building that they can trust, they can confide in, because it's not only school stuff that they may have difficulty with, there may be some personal things and they just don't know who to talk to. And so when I have a student come in and share that they're having an issue with another student, that's great, because then we can stop it before it becomes a bullying issue, and we can address the needs of that student and make them feel comfortable and that they know that there is follow-up. So, I've had a couple cases this year where those students, if they didn't have the mentor, they might not have said anything to anyone, and we just assume that they're struggling academically. Well, really they're not. There's some external factors that are playing into it.
Even things like home problems, they don't eat breakfast, or that kind of thing. Mom's boyfriend's living there and giving the kid problems.
Yeah, I mean, there's a wide variety of things. I mean, sometimes we don't realize as adults, because we live in our world and we have our own children, that sometimes we don't realize what some children go through on a daily basis. Sure. Even taking my kids for example, when my mother about a month ago was not doing well at all and had to be taken to the hospital from the nursing home, I know that weighs on my son's mind because he thinks about his grandmother all the time. That's going to have an impact on him in school, without a doubt. What he's thinking about when he's in school. School may not be the most important thing on his mind at that particular time. It's about his grandmother. Where if he can confide in somebody and talk, then he can focus the rest of his day on school, knowing that he can share that with someone. So, yeah, those things range, but it's nice as they start. That's why we try to encourage our teachers, is that is your time with the kids. Develop those relationships and let them know that they can share something with you, they can trust you, and that you're going to follow through with it as well. So, yeah, but I enjoy it. I look forward to meeting my group every day after, at the end of the day. So.
Now, what about the teachers? I mean, I could see where they might enjoy it, or I could see where maybe someone might say, "Oh, don't I have enough to do already with that?"
Well, and that's why we tried to make it as simplified as possible. We gave the flexibility to the teachers that during that 30 minutes they can develop that however they see. So every mentor, the way they may decide to do the same thing per grade level, per department, but I wanted that flexibility. That time is your time with the kids, how you want to develop it. I just didn't want it to be in an extra study hall every day,
Right.
because they have, but how they, because that varies per teacher, it varies per student, and the makeup of that population. But what we'll do is we have our first DLT, our district leadership team, next week, and we'll talk about that. That's where that comes up, where at the building level they talk about how the mentoring program is going, good things, bad things, are there things that we need to make changes to for next year, are there some things that we can add to it. So we'll start to get some input from our teachers and how well it's going. And obviously whenever you implement some things, there's going to be changes. There is. I mean, there's going to be some corrections, and there could be some things that we can delete and some things that we can add. They may like it and may want to add more time to it. Well, if that's a recommendation for our staff, we'll look at doing that next year. So
Now that you're over at the middle school, what's the plans for Southeast?
well, it's still, our maintenance department is housed there. It's always been housed there. They'll continue to be housed there. We have a lot of maintenance equipment. We have some things that we may take down from different areas, and fencing and things of that nature. So, there's always a couple classrooms are already filled with some of the maintenance equipment as well as they have in the past. So, it's until we find another location, or until, that's down the road, so that building will stay there. It'll be kind of an extra storage for to get rid of some extra equipment that are in our buildings that are kind of stuffed in storage units, so we can house it there. It'll be, a location for some of our old files that we have to maintain, but mostly for our maintenance department to be housed.
There was talk about a joint venture with the city, the old static parking area there.
Yeah, and that's still, we're still in discussion. Actually, we talked about that at our last school board city council meeting. Again, that's a couple years down the road if those plans come to fruition. So but the talks are on the table, and at our last meeting they were very positive from both sides, both the city and the Board of Education. So we know it'll be a direction that we can go towards that will be cost effective for the district and for the city as well. But it'll take some time, some planning and some organization working with the city on that.
Somebody called, we were supposed to have Jim Hockaday on the show, and he couldn't make it, and I talked to him last night. We still have to reschedule. But there was reports a while ago about like some toxic materials around there from the plants. And you may not be the person to ask. I may be putting you on the spot, but what the heck?
That I'm not aware of. Obviously, I know there were some discussions prior to me coming in the superintendent.
Yeah, I can't remember if something was, but I don't think anything was dug up or anything. Maybe they have found since then that there's no problems.
Yeah. So again, like I said, we had a very, very positive conversation, and we'll start to entertain that and have those discussions. But the Southeast building, our maintenance does a great job maintaining that building. They keep the outside and the inside, very well kept up. And we removed the old sign from the outside because we had a lot of students that played football in that grass area in the front of Southeast, and I'd rather have kids playing football than being somewhere else. And so we took the sign down for safety reasons, so they have a little bit more room.
Well, that's
so
good.
It's worked out well.
Because empty buildings with no use are a problem. I mean, just look at Amboy.
Yeah.
And now I guess the North Kingsville building in Buckeye's been sold finally, but that was another one of those things where it would cost more to demolish the building than it would to.
And Southeast is still, it's not that it's our move to the middle school. The room was there. It's much more professional, much cleaner. It's safer for our employees, obviously. But like I said, our maintenance, they do a great job keeping the Southeast building up. We're going to make sure it doesn't become an eyesore for the community. We'll still maintain it and take care of it. So.
Okay. So you had the white. So first of all, you had the first back to school thing.
Yeah, back to school celebration.
Celebration, and this was the first time you had that. And I did a video on it, but I happened to be there, and I'm talking to Mrs. Zappatelli, and there's somebody standing there that I kind of recognized a little bit, and all of a sudden I realized it was the exchange student from the year before I graduated.
Okay.
And he lives in Aurora, and he was flabbergasted that I had recognized him. He's from Belgium, and he recently moved from Belgium to Aurora, and he's playing golf and stuff. And one day he decided just to come back to Conneaut to see what the town looked like, and he ended up seeing what was going on there and talking to people. I mean, it was just the greatest place to be that day.
That day. Yeah, I had the opportunity actually to meet with him and talk with him for a little bit. Joni Norton, one of our board members, introduced me.
What, that she, because she graduated with him.
Yeah, so it was neat just sitting there and talking with him, and I invited him back to our district even to come and talk to our students about, you know, the experience being a foreign exchange student and the opportunities, or not really opportunities, but experiences that they have in other countries that our students may not be familiar with.
Yeah.
Because we all learn, even as adults. You know, I went on vacation this past summer and met some people that from different countries, and you know, I met a family from Denmark, and just sitting and talking to them about their culture and their government and their income, it was interesting. And so, you know, again, that's another great resource that we can bring in and talk with our students about other countries and the lifestyle. But
they all could speak English well too.
Yeah.
You know, I was in France a couple of years ago, and we were at Versailles, and there was a native-born Parisian there, and his English was so flawless. He could have been from Oklahoma City, as far as you could tell. He had no accent when he spoke English.
Yeah, it's amazing. It really is. When you speak to, you know, people from other countries and just their fluency in English and the English language, and yeah, I'm impressed. Which means, I mean, they're highly intelligent. It's tough to, you know, they say English is the toughest language to learn, even though I've been trying to learn Spanish for years and I still can't grasp it. But yeah, the back to school celebration was great.
Seemed to be a lot of people there.
Yeah, we prayed for good weather, and you know,
it was a little on the warm side.
Yeah, but that's okay. They originally called for rain that day, and that's why we had a couple tents set up. But it was a great day. It was hot. You know, it was, you know, just the office staff and Mr. Kennedy, one of our board members, cooking the hot dogs. I think we had close to 700 hot dogs to cook, and you know, it's hard to say how many people were there. I know there were a few hundred people there, but it was a great turnout. We've already talked about how do we add to it, how do we change it. There's been some great recommendations in regards. We had it from 11 till 1 in the middle of the day. So we're considering moving it to the evening next year, so to have more people, parents that are working can come. So that was a great recommendation. I know,
especially like with the band played.
Correct.
And that, I mean, when my kids were in the band, they all went to band camp, and they came back limping and hobbling, and I don't know, there were a few crutches there, and then they would put on the band show, and it's kind of nice to have it as part of this festival.
It was great. It was you know, and plus it was great practice for our band, because they had a band night, I believe, the following night. So it was great practice for them as well. So, you know, looking at moving it to the evening, I know Miss Zapatelli at the high school mentioned, you know, right afterwards, hey, wouldn't it be great if we had we have the military that show up and speak at the high school and speak to our students, and having them come, and they can bring a rock climbing wall.
Oh yeah.
So, you know, we've already started writing some things down for next year, but I told, I shared this with the board and some other people. You know, you put all that work into it, and then it made my day when at the close of it, when we were doing the raffle for the various prizes, and when I seen one of our younger students who won the bicycle from Lakeshore, and seeing her sit on the bicycle with her parents, that made my day. That made it all worth it. So, but yeah, it was a great event, and we're looking forward to it. You know, there was a lot of planning, and you know, again, I can't say enough thank you for, you know, all our teachers and administrators that not only came and worked it, but just came in support of it. Our board members. Our maintenance for just taking care of everything, setting everything up and taking it down, and just our vendors that donated. We work with Gordon Foods and Mapleville Farms, and they donated a ton of food items, and also Phil's Catering. He donated food items, and so it was just a lot of people that came together to help out, so it was great.
It's kind of a nice segue for the kids from doing whatever they want all day to boom, it's back in school.
Right, yeah. So it kind of gets them thinking about school again, you know, about, which, you know, the younger they are, the more excited they are, but it was nice. We had our high school students there. They came in their various sports uniforms
Yeah.
and walked around, and so it was great. I think hopefully our older students enjoyed it as much as our younger ones. But to me, it was nice even seeing some of our high school students, and just getting them excited about coming back to school, and so it was a great turnout. So we were excited.
So speaking of the stadium and all, I as an adult am learning because I'm trying to figure out where all these schools are that the football team is playing now.
Mm-hmm.
Literally last week and this week, I never knew those schools
Yeah.
existed.
Yeah.
How's that? I mean, are they?
We're still working on that.
Yeah.
It's both.
I have that one, so I haven't even
Yeah.
seen a full schedule of who they're playing. Are they playing like Jefferson and?
Yeah, the bright side this year is we have 6 home games. Usually it's five home, 5 away. We were lucky we had 6 home games this year. So I believe our next 3 games are home, and then we're away for a couple. Then we come back home for our last one. But yeah, we had to pick up. We had a couple cancellations before the school year started from school districts, either that have folded or they got accepted into a league, or and so they had to drop us from our schedule. So we were scrambling to try to get some schools. So our game 1 was a game that we had to pick up, which was Cleveland John Hay, and they came to our place. And then Massillon Tuslaw, the last game we played, was a game that was a school that we had to pick up late in the summer due to a cancellation of another school. Usually you sign contracts that are good for about 2 years. Sometimes there's some unexpected things happen and they have to break the contract, and then you kind of work out a deal with that. But yeah, so for the most part, for the rest of our games, they're going to be with districts that we're familiar with as far as traveling to or playing those districts at home, such as PV and GV. We have Wyndham this Friday and so forth.
So that's good.
Yeah.
Kind of reminds me, I'm joking there, but I can remember when the tragedy at 9/11, that Friday, Conneaut was supposed to play a team from Ontario, and the borders were closed, and so there wasn't even a football game.
Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah, so it's something that we're going to continue to work on. I applied for us to be involved in 2 leagues last year. Obviously we were declined for those, so I've been working very heavily with another superintendent and getting a league formed, and we have some interest from some other school districts that are either currently independent or are currently in leagues that are considering it. Just try to make it more local, for not only to have our student athletes involved in a league, but to also make it more local as well, so they can develop rivals with the neighboring school districts. So we're going to continue to work hard. I know Tom Derringer, the superintendent at Buckeye, is a great person. We talk a couple days a week, and him and I have been working closely together trying to get something organized. So
they are in a league.
They are in a league. They're in the All-American Conference. Again, it's hard for a lot of those Ashtabula County schools. It's a lot of traveling and a lot of time on the buses for student athletes. So I don't want to put our student athletes in that situation. It'd be great to be in a league, but then it's also miserable for them getting home at 11, 12 o'clock at night and having to get up at 6 in the morning for school. So we have to do what's best for our students, both academically and not to put make it more difficult for our parents and our student athletes that we're traveling over an hour for every
right,
game.
especially I would think like basketball.
It's difficult for basketball because of the weather, obviously. So there's a lot of factors we have to take in place, but we're very, very positive. With any league, whether you form a league or you join the league, you're always 2 years out because scheduling is done 2 years out in contracts. And so,
right. Okay, I hadn't thought of that.
Yeah. So we're laying the groundwork this year, and hopefully by the end of the year I have something in place working with other school districts, and we can look to make a move in the next 2 years. So we'll stay positive. Yeah.
Well, speaking of positive though, is the track, which we've talked about before. Did I see someplace, or was it just a dream or something, that we're hosting something here in Conneaut, a tournament or something?
Yeah, we have 2 home meets there already scheduled this year, but our athletic administrator has been in discussion with Pymatuming Valley. They've always hosted the Ashtabula County Track Invitational at PV. And their track, I think, is in need of some repairs, and so they contacted us because we have a beautiful facility.
Yeah.
And so our athletic administrator has been in discussion with them as far as hosting the all all-county track
Oh, that'd be
meets.
great.
It'd be great. It's great for our community. We'll have all the school districts here. It's good for businesses.
Sure.
Because, you know, in between, parents and the players have to go somewhere and eat and, you know, do some and shop and things of that nature. And so it'll be nice to have them here, not only for that, but just to see our facilities.
Yeah.
And especially taking that back to their school district and sharing the positive experience they have is also helpful for us, especially
absolutely.
when we're looking at getting into a league. So.
It seems, and I may be totally wrong here, but it seems like at one time PV had pretty much the only track or one of few that was usable. You know, years ago, like when my son was playing, they just, the old crumbling stadium, they ran around there, and it was cylinder, and it was stuff that they can't do anymore.
Right.
And it was like at the time, Pine Bitumen was the mecca as far as outdoor tracks.
Yeah, and that's, you know, it's changed over the years, obviously, because of the growth in track for student athletes. So, you know, we're just blessed, you know, with the community support and the Spark Complex and Mr. and Mrs. Amy and everyone for their donations, and to have that beautiful track for our athletes. It's good for our athletes to practice on, but now we're getting to the point we're going to start hosting some events and drawing some people to Conneaut, which is great.
Yeah. Because for a while, I don't know, a few years ago, you weren't here, I think there was a tour when they were talking about conferences, and some of the schools were like, oh.
Yeah, it wasn't the best facilities at that time.
Yeah.
You know, and obviously people look into that, you know, when they go and when they're accepting a school district, they, you know, the commissioners of the league, they don't want to field complaints of places they go to play in and so forth. So, you know, our facilities are, like I said, our maintenance department does a phenomenal job, and, you know, that the Spark Complex is coming. We still have a ways to go.
What about the tennis?
Same thing, you know, the goal is to put 6 tennis courts at the Spark Complex on the grass area behind the home side of the football stadium. But again, it involves revenue, and so we're in the process. Spark
There's still
committee,
fundraisers and that kind
still
of thing?
fundraisers. You know, you know, you get to that point whenever you do a project like that early on you get a lot of the donations and people moving forward, and then it slows down, and so it's. You know, Mark Wheeler heads the Spark Committee. He does a great job communicating with people, and, you know, we'll continue to reach out to people, and you know, if we do get a LeBron that goes through here, then they can come back and fund the whole project, which would be great. But you know, there's it'll take some time, but we'll eventually get there, and we know that. So, but the great thing too with the tennis courts on Liberty Street there, those tennis courts are going through a resurfacing project, which would be great. So at least until the other ones are built, you know, our student athletes and our community will have somewhere to go and have some nice tennis courts to play on. So.
Meanwhile, that student of yours that wants to be a professional athlete, you got to encourage them. Okay, so what kind of exercise did you do today? Did you shoot some hoops?
Yeah.
You know, we're dependent on you.
And this one's a soccer one, which is great.
Oh, yeah, that's very interesting.
Which is great because we implemented this year the board-approved middle school soccer program, which they're doing great at, and so he's already looking forward to joining the middle school soccer team next year. So that's great.
Yeah.
Because it goes hand in hand. You know, they do well in school and they can play sports. So you know the extracurriculars definitely help with their academics as well.
Give the kids all the opportunities and as possible.
Absolutely. Yep.
Well, speaking of opportunities to ride the bus, we'll talk about that in a minute. The whole transportation thing and the high school thing and all that kind of good stuff. Michael Notar with us, the Conneaut School Superintendent. And I wanted to talk a little bit about busing because you were on the show before. You kind of announced that they would be returning to high school before this year. Anybody in 9th through 12th grade had to find their own way to school, and you're reintroducing it 9th grade this year, and each year adding another grade. We have somebody on the phone. Let's see what. Hello, you're on the air.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I would like to hear Mr. Notar's reasoning behind the reduction in secretarial staff at all the schools.
Okay. All right. Reduction of secretarial staff.
Yeah, anytime with any school district, when you come in as a superintendent, or as time goes on, even if you're in a district for a long time, you look at all staffing across the board, whether it's administrative, whether it's classified or certified positions. And as people retire or resign and maybe go to another district, you start to look at what's called attrition, just to see if job duties can be shared, if positions can be eliminated through attrition. And again, it's the financial part of running a school district to stay afloat financially. When I came on as superintendent last August, we were anticipating on putting a levy on the ballot this past spring due to our financial situation. We did have some retirements and resignations. We were able to absorb some positions through attrition, both teaching and both certified and classified, and administrative as well. And by doing that, it postponed us to going to the voters for at least 2 more years. Again, it's trying to be responsible with the taxpayers and their dollars and how far we can stretch those as the course of the year goes on. Obviously, we'll take a look at this school year and how things go. We'll evaluate as the year goes on. We'll talk with administration and unions and see how things are going. And if there's certain positions we need to bring back or bring back part-time, we'll take a look at that. But yeah, it's normal for every school district to do that. It's just part of it. It's not only academics, it's also the financial piece too.
So your executive secretary retired, and so you brought somebody else in, and was somewhere along the line nobody was added to
Correct.
the payroll.
Yeah. When my secretary retired, I hired or moved over from our Gateway building, the secretary there to replace my former secretary. And then we just didn't replace that position at that building. That building had 2 secretaries, and we remained with one being housed in that building. So,
But she's still in the building, so I guess they could run over and ask her questions.
yeah, I mean, she's always there to help. Anytime there's a transition and somebody takes over a new position, there's always going to be support. So, same thing when I came on as superintendent. It was nice to still have Mr. Houston there just to ask questions and get to know some things, because there's always a learning curve with any district, with any position. So, but yeah, again, that's just a normal process for a lot of school districts. Being a superintendent, you're not only responsible for the academic piece, but you're also responsible for the financial piece and trying to conserve tax dollars and their money, and to see how far we can make it stretch. So we were happy that we were able to extend it at least 2 more years before we go to the voters. And that's important, and that ties in with busing too. I think that's very, very important, because but high school busing was cut several years ago as a savings, and that has a direct impact on students and their attendance at school and whether they're going to go to school or not. So that was a concern when coming on, is looking at where we are financially and what are some things that are going to better serve our students. And I know that was a concern for our board as well as myself in providing high school transportation. So we have filtered in freshman transportation this school year. We have a transportation supervisor now in-house that was an employee that we promoted to the supervisor's position. Once she gets settled in, we're going to start taking a look at our sophomore students. So we might be able to, and I don't want to promise, but there's a good opportunity that we'll be able to handle some of our sophomore students this year, which is ahead of schedule.
So that would be them and then their siblings too, if they're
correct.
if
Yeah,
junior, senior siblings.
Right. We wanted to start with freshmen. Obviously, we didn't want to say 9 through 12 and realize we couldn't do it. So it's better to take small steps to make sure we can do it. So we had about close to 100 freshmen that were eligible for transportation. Probably about 55–60% of those students took advantage of transportation. The rest may still get rides or their older sibling drives or whatever it may be. So that we're noticing with the high school transportation, we have a smaller number of students on there, which is good, because that makes us realize that we can start filtering in sophomore students. So once the supervisor gets settled in, we're going to take a look at our sophomore students, and hopefully if we can get them on the buses before snow hits, that would be great too, so that we get any walking or finding transportation in the winter. And then we'll take a look at the end of the school year and look at juniors and seniors next year. So again, it's just it's a way of providing a way of transportation to school for those students that either have to rely on a parent, rely on another student, and I'd rather have that student on a bus than in a car with a couple other teenagers on bad roads in the wintertime.
Does that enter a factor whether you close school or not? Is to, well, you got kids in Monroe and they're going to have to get their own way to school. And
Well, you know, it's hard. You know, the last couple of years, really, we had 10 calamity days last year. 8 were because of the wind chill, not really because of the snow. But a lot of it
get cold.
Yeah, a lot of it just depends on. You take that into consideration, obviously, but you know, your first thought are the school buses, and you know, whether they're able to safely transport our students and get to the homes and so forth. So, but those discussions, those are hit and miss when they come, and you know, sometimes they predict a lot and we don't get anything. But,
Right.
Yeah. So it's been going very well. So we're happy, and some students are taking advantage of it. So there's 55, 60 kids that don't have to rely on someone else or worry every day about how they're going to get to school the following day, or you know, have their parents, you know, try to figure something out as well. So, and I do want to say, by making that change, we did have to make an adjustment to our other building times, because transportation runs off of high school. When you don't have high school transportation, you can start your K-8 buildings anytime you want.
Right.
But when you have to start with high school, because of our students and busing those students to ATEC, we have to be in line with their start and end times, which it made an adjustment. Our Lakeshore, the Gateway, and the middle school were all moved back about 30-35 minutes. But the community, the parents, they've been very, very understanding of that. I can't thank them enough, because it did make an adjustment in, you know, what time they were able to drop their son or daughter off, or what time they were getting picked up from the bus. But again, I try to encourage everyone that it's for all students. So if I don't have a child in the high school, I'm really not worried about high school transportation. But eventually my son or daughter is going to get to high school.
Yeah.
And if I can't provide it, it's nice knowing that transportation is provided.
Absolutely.
So,
Now but you have an in-house employee. You originally were talking about hiring a firm out of Youngstown, and the school board didn't like that idea.
Yeah, we started talks last year, obviously about 4 or 5 months out of the job. Again, it's a way of getting to know the staff and employees, and so early on we looked at Community Bus Services, which is housed out of Youngstown. They do work for various districts. I believe they're in Madison. They're in Warren City, where I came from, because I dealt with them as the
I remember
business manager.
Madison when they went in, because at first it was a very rough start.
Yeah, they're in Madison now. They're in Whitcliffe City Schools, and so we took a look at them because they're a company that's been in business for a number of years. Obviously, we were looking at implementing freshman transportation, looking at routes, and so having a group of people come in and take a look at it rather than just one person, we thought might be. So we began those talks, you know, early on last February or March. Time went on through the summer. It was just some, you know, nobody's fault to blame. I think it was a timing issue of everything with their staffing, and just like us, we run into staffing issues sometimes. You know, we have some positions that we can't find anybody to fill because they're not licensed, and I think they were going through that transition.
You got to get those kids you monitor. You tell them, listen, how would you like to be?
Yeah, you know, but
we'll just have to hold out for the next 10 years.
I had this discussion the other day just about jobs in general. You know, there's some jobs out there that they're open, like you said, with the machinists, and they're just not being filled. So, you know, they're with every company, even school districts. There's teaching positions that we were having a hard time filling before school started. And I think with community busing, they had some issues with staffing and supervisors, and it's normal. It's normal nowadays. And so we just didn't feel comfortable at that time with the personnel, and so we had a discussion, and we felt that we would have some qualified people in-house, so we posted it in-house, and Kelly Thompson, who was she was our secretary for our Director of Special Services. She was hired as a transportation supervisor, which she has a number of years experience. She drove bus for the district.
Yeah.
She's worked on the routing software the last several years, which was very, very important because that's a big part of the job. So we're pleased. She's excited, and she's already dived into it and started looking at some things. Yeah.
I understand she dived into it even before she was officially appointed. I mean, she was
Yeah, well, she's been doing the past several years. She's always done
Yeah.
the routing for the district, and so she's very familiar with it. But yeah, the day after, I think we had a board meeting on a Thursday, and I think she started the following Monday. Jumped right into it. So, or no, it was the next day. It was the following
Okay.
day. Yep.
Do you have a couple minutes? Because I need to
Sure.
go to a break, but I wanted to ask you about a couple other things, then I'll let you go.
Absolutely.
Is that okay?
Yep, sounds good.
All right. I wanted to talk a little bit because we had a physician on yesterday or 2 days ago. Yesterday. Today's Thursday. It was whatever day it was. I think it was yesterday. It was yesterday. And we're talking about childhood obesity. He said, and this is, even I was kind of shocked at this, 1 out of every 3 children is obese these days, and they don't get out and they don't run as much and stuff. And when I was in grade school back in the 1920s, I was talking to a bunch of kids in school once, and I said something about when I graduated in 1911, and most of these kids are like this. And one kid in the back of the room, he's going like, one kid out of a bunch of kids thought, well, wait a minute, that can't be.
Yeah.
Anyway, when I was in school, there was a 15-minute in the morning and a 15-minute in the afternoon. And a lot of kids would go home for lunch, and there was enough time when they came back to lunch, they got to play before school started again. So, and there were fewer kids on medications and stuff for attention deficit problems and that sort of thing. So, I mean, how is that addressed these days? I know there's pressures as to what kids have to learn and testing and that sort of
Well, I
thing.
think, and again, I'm no physician, but just having, a couple kids of my own and being in education the past 20-some years is, I think, childhood obesity is a combination of a couple of things. One, it's just not all about physical activity, which I think that is a large part of it. I think society has changed. We all know as both parents are working in home, to come home and eat a healthy meal at the dinner table is far and few between. A lot of our meals are on the go, grab and go, which usually aren't the healthiest items. If you look at the least expensive food items in the stores, they're usually the ones that are high carb, high fat that people tend to have. So I think that combination, as well as some of our children or youth being more involved in playing video games and things of that nature when they get home. There's no doubt with physical activity in school, it also helps. Not so much our district, because we were ahead of the curve in regards to the number of work or the number of hours that the students have to be in school, because a couple of years ago the Ohio Department of Education changed it from days to hours. And some districts, which means they really don't give any day you miss due to weather, you really have to make up. There's really technically no more calamity days because it's all based upon hours. So some districts, let's say if there's total number of instructional hours, gave them enough maybe to be off for 4 or 5 days like we've always had. And let's say if they had 2 recesses, a morning and an afternoon, then maybe they cut that afternoon recess in order to put that back into their instructional time so they can have a little bit more leeway with calamity days. We're blessed we don't have that. Our teachers work a full regular work day, which is the first district I've been in where they work. They have a contracted 8-hour day, and so that helps because that increases the amount of instructional time. But look at the makeup of our district. Our K through 5, those students do have recess and they have a phys ed class, and then grades 6 through 12 they have phys ed during the day. But there comes a point in time where if you're a junior or senior and you've taken your phys ed credit, you really don't have any physical activity during the school day during that time. But yeah, so I think it's a combination of a couple of things. Our teachers do a great job our principals do a great job trying to get them outside and let them run off some energy, because they need that. They're kids.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I mentioned this the other day, but there was a story of somebody was concerned about this and the growth in kids with medication, visiting a class, and the teachers trying to read to very young children. And there's kids, every one of the kids, it's a Friday at 3 o'clock or 2 o'clock, and they're squirming, and one girl's hitting herself over the head with a water bottle. And
but again, a lot of it, society's changed too. It's
it's not definitely not all school stuff.
It's more of a fast-paced society, and we talk about that in education, that when we went to school, it was easy for us to sit there. It might not have been easy, but we did it for 45, 50 minutes, 60 minutes, and listen to a teacher teach. Nowadays, it's hard to do that. Our teachers know that. you know, 10 or 15 minutes of instruction, then move around, small group, do some different things, because it's just a society where it's fast, and sometimes we need to just take a step back and focus on some things, but you know, and that's a tough adjustment sometimes, because everything just seems to be going by so fast that we lose track, that we have to take a step back and kind of slow things down every once in a while.
And then the kids go home and play games, or
yeah, and some are involved in, you know, outside activities,
Yeah.
but you know, when I was younger, I went home and played one-on-one baseball with a neighbor, or
Right.
we played catch off the roof on a tennis ball, and so, or we rode our bikes for hours and came
Yeah.
home when the sun went down. So we still have some kids that do that, but for the most part, it's just society's changed. I see it in my own 2 children.
I noticed, I think it's at Gateway, they got swing sets that weren't there before.
Yeah.
We were going to take I got 4-year-old grandsons, and then there's Henry, who's 6, and we were going to, sometimes we pack them all up and we get all their little bikes and things, and we take them over to Gateway on like a Saturday or Sunday, let them ride around the parking lot. And the tradition is, after they ride around the parking lot for a while, they go into the playground area and you know, play on the different things. And one of them mentioned at the time that there were no swings, so they're going to swing on the swings at our house first, and they go over there, and we get there, and holy smokes, there's swings!
Yeah. And you know, Mrs. Mucci, the principal there, did a great job working with, you know, doing some fundraising. I know Mr. Schreiber at the Dairy Queen came in and helped out tremendously last year with getting those purchased and installed and so forth. So yeah, it was great. You would have thought it was just seeing the kids, you know, something as simple as a swing set.
Yeah.
Very, very excited, yeah. Yep.
And I'd be remiss if we didn't mention the summer program over at Lakeshore.
Lakeshore, yeah. They do that every summer. It's great for the kids. You know, the principal, Mr. Kennedy, puts his time in there, and, you know, he donates his time every summer doing that, but he knows it's great for our kids. They come. It's nice seeing them.
They do come.
They do.
And they come an hour early.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, if you think kids don't want to exercise, they don't want to run outside, sometimes they just need the opportunity or being told or whatever.
Yeah.
If it's a choice between, well, what am I going to do outside, I'll just stay in. But if they know something's going on, and that was...
Yeah, we'll continue that because the numbers increase every year, and that's a good thing. So.
Definitely.
Yep. Okay.
All right. Well, anything else you want to?
No, I think that's it. I know I have a couple of my kids coming in to see me at 9:30 this
morning.
My mentor group. So
okay. Well, tell them we said hi.
I will.